National Teacher Appreciation Day. No. Here's the thing. It depends on the teacher. We've had some crap teachers, and I do not appreciate them at all. We had one fail us by a singular point, so we'd have to go to summer school just so they can prove their perspective. Oddly enough, entrepreneur class. Yep. Entrepreneur class. They weren't happy. They weren't happy that we didn't take the loan. Not that they're watching this, but let me unpack some baggage here. Okay. Had a teacher. I'd say their name, but fuck them, let them die. Entrepreneur class, right? Literally had this bro, kind of a well-off dude, literally wrote a check out for everybody. I've told this story. I'm going to make it short. Wrote out a check for $50 for everybody in the class. There was like 35 kids in this class. So they could, quote unquote, start a business. They had to take that $50 and invest it. Do something. But you had to pay it back at the end of the, thing. No interest, of course. So everybody's getting their checks. We go straight up to the guy. And he's like, oh, here's your check. Winner, puppy, won. Nice. He's like, here's your check. I'm like, no, thanks. And the teacher looks at us like, take the check. I'm like, nah. And the guy is trying to be like good about it. And he's like, well, how are you going to get, because, you're learning how to start a business and everything. How do you expect to have the funding or capital to get your business off the ground? We'll figure it out. And he looks at the teacher looks at him. And he's like, are you sure? In other words, saying, you're probably going to fail this. Like, I don't know how you're going to do this. I'm like, no, we're good. We got it. We know what we're going to do. Okay. So that was it. Teacher was fucking pissed about that. So she proved that later on. What we did, our business, right? This is how women started to like us, but guys started to hate us. Our business, right? What we did, we made earrings. We literally made earrings, fancy earrings. We literally came up with a name, business cards. It was in your ear. It was like edgy jewelry. Not even joking about it. The thing is, our quote unquote startup cost was his mom's old jewelry stuff that she just never used. Because she, at a certain point, would make jewelry. We had the resources. Why am I going to take a loan when I could use what's already there? I don't have to buy product. Right? Dude, you were like freaking 12 and you figured this out. So, we go through all this thing, we make a bunch of earrings. Well, we literally sold them all. Women loved them. All the girls in school, they were, oh my God, do you have any new earrings? That's the only time they would talk to you when they wanted jewelry. Isn't that? They learn at a young age, don't they? Guys did not really like you because why you keep talking to them? People who think they're boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend gets upset, knocks over the table, that kind of crap. So whatever it is, what it is. We go through the whole thing. We have all our books, all our stuff, blah, blah, blah. Psh. We literally, and on honesty, okay, balancing the books. We had to do that as well. Balance checkbooks, account, profit, how much the product cost you, how much you sold it as a profit. We got the product for free. I literally tell this to the teacher. We got the product for free. That never happens. It did in this case. Yeah, but there's always a startup cost. Not now. So what am I going to do? Lie on the books? And I literally presented this. Dude, you presented this. You're like, do I lie on the books and say it cost me money when it didn't cost me money? Well, how are you supposed to get a write-off? I'm not supposed to lie to the government, correct? Yeah, but this was the thing going back and forth. She was absolutely fucking stumped. Right? So I'm like, what do we do with that? I'm like, it was basically, this was gifted to us. Well, it has an estimated value. It doesn't, because she was going to throw it out. It was literally garbage. I almost dumpster dived for this. It's like when you take something out of the trash and you resell it or something, fix it up a little bit. You know what it costs you? The cleaning supplies. The Windex. That's what it cost you. Okay? So she wasn't happy with that. God forbid you be honest when dealing with the books, right? Should have known that was a red flag right there. So we go through this whole thing, go through the semester. Everybody pays back the guy. Of course, he, when it comes to us, he's like, oh, yeah, you're the one that didn't, you didn't, what'd you do for your business? I'm like, well, we sold a bunch of earrings. This was back then when I was a kid, mini you. We made like $500 as a kid. Zero investment, a lot of hard work, $500. We made more than most people did. Except that one kid that was selling candy to everybody. That was a brilliant idea. That kind of thing. So I explained to the guy, I'm like, look, well, we didn't have any costs because we got all the product for free. He's like, that rarely happens. Well, it did in this scenario. So what happens is, and I'm literally, you're like 12 years old and you're steamrolling over this guy because you just want to get to the freaking point, So we go through this whole thing and he's just like, well, you made a profit, that's good. You're not in debt. You didn't take a loan. He kind of changed his tune and was impressed by it, but the teacher felt a little showed up. You didn't follow the assignment. Failed us by 1 point. Just to prove a point. So now we got to go to summer school. What do they do in summer school? They keep you in a class filled with crappy computers and give you worksheets to do for the entirety of the summer. They gave us, 5 weeks of worksheets? We finished them off in 4 days. She came in because she's supposed to come in at the end of the week. She looks at me. She's like, yeah, so how those worksheets going? I literally take the stack of it. I put it in her hand. I'm like, I'm done. She's like, you didn't finish all these. I'm like, no, go check them. This is your summer homework now. Go check these. I'm done. Literally, what I did for the rest of the summer, we just played on a computer. We literally played on an old piece of crap computer. Guess what we were doing? Learning how to do animation on a really old, fucked up program. So, you know what? She's got to be dead. And the school got torn down. So fuck them both. Now you don't owe him 50 friggin' bucks. That's the whole thing. And even at a young age, because that stems back from what, your parents would say, is if you don't have the money, don't buy it. And we took that to heart because it was like, that just made sense. I don't have money. Why am I buying it? And they wanted to teach you about credit and stuff like that. Go.
With kawaii hugs
Adam, thank you for the raid. Thank you. Hope you're doing well. That was the thing. It was like, and, I know they wanted to learn about debt. Well, if you didn't pay this back, because they had this like, this is how much interest you would have had to pay on the $50 if you did take it. So keep that in mind when you take money out of the bank. And I'm like, we knew about that because, you had parents that were smart enough to say, if you spend $1 on something and there's 23% interest, next week or next month when you got to pay it back, you don't pay it back, you owe $1.23 or whatever. And even as a kid, simple math, you were like, fuck, that's a lot of money. Imagine buying $1 worth of candy and then having to pay $1.23 on it. So that being what it is, and we've literally moved forward with that kind of thing. Anytime we needed some kind of business product or whatever, we try to get it free or heavily discounted because I don't want to spend money. Well, it's a tax write-off. It's not a complete tax write-off. And that was a valuable lesson for us, realizing that, you got to think you're a kid. You realized, valuable lesson, you can reason with people if you succeed to a certain extent, but then you can also not reason with certain people if you prove them wrong, because they'll still double down and use their power to fuck you over. but you can always get back at them a little bit. She had no more worksheets. She literally ran out of worksheets. She thought we were going to be swamped. The other kids were swamped because they belonged in summer school. This was an afternoon watching Inspector Gadget filling this shit out, you know? I'm like, fuck off, lady. Get the hell out of here with your worksheets, you know? Maybe I'll bring in more work. Go ahead. I'll have it finished before you even leave the room. You know? She literally stormed off, too. You could hear the clacking down the hallway of the crappy high heels from a bitch-ass accountant. Oh, God. It was funny. So, again, wasted summer, whatever. I don't like the heat anyway. The room was air-conditioned, so I was actually kind of thankful. Got to play around with computers. And learned very valuable life lessons about petty people, people who are reasonable. And the person in charge of the computers loved us. He was like, dude, what are you doing with this computer? Because we were doing stuff he didn't know how to do. We didn't know how to do it. We're just poking at buttons. We're just like, yeah, let's see what happens. He's like, how'd you do that? This, you know, like computers that had MS Paint in it, you know, that kind of thing. Of course, that's what we gravitated to. That was pretty cool.
That teacher acts like other businesses where the parents were wealthy and just gave their children money to start their own businesses without paying them back. Don't exist because even that's similar to you guys having that jewelry as a free asset without cost.
Cost put in. The 90s and 2000s are riddled with those kinds of businesses. That's the thing, you know? And not for nothing, we like being that person that works around it. It's a challenge to us. We like it, you know? I can't do this with this program because it's too old. Fuck it. Work around it. You know? You can't do this because you don't have the money. Fuck it. Work around it. Everything. You know? And it keeps things interesting where it's like, all right, you know, I got to work around it, do this, blah, 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 blah. I know people would just be like, you know what? Pay the fee. Pay the Adobe Photoshop fee. You know, you get the suite of stuff. You could pay every month and get everything you ever want. No. Fuck that. Work around it. You know, and that's what we've been doing. And we will continue to do so for as long as we live, because I'm not going to be shelling out money to everybody left and right when I don't have the money to begin with. Don't have the money. Don't buy it. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's so bizarre that a human being would do that, especially to a kid. You know, it's like, no. Well, I understand why they would do it, because no teacher likes to be showed up by a 12-year-old, you know? Nobody wants that. Nobody. So in turn, they have to do the flex. They got to do the flex. I got power. I'm going to ruin your summer. You know what we would have done during that summer? If we had a computer, stayed at home in front of a computer. You didn't fuck up our lives that much. No, she's got to be dead by now, because this was quite some time ago. I really hope so. I got to look that up. Bring up her obituary and be like, you're fucking dead, bitch. How's your summer going? Oh, you don't have any more left. Fuck you. Let's see. I am absolutely that vindictive. You know what? And chances are she probably wouldn't even remember if she was alive. Probably wouldn't remember. Wouldn't be an apology. You didn't do the assignment. On her deathbed. You didn't do the assignment. Well, you know what? Not every person adheres to every little rule that's put out there. Sometimes there are new rules you can make up if you're smart enough. God. Our fifth grade teacher was probably dead too. All right. Yeah. Obituary. That's pretty good. I like that. Oh, bitch, you dead. That's pretty good. I like that.